Shalom, this is the 13th in the series of defining terms for our Introduction to Judaism long-term conversion class. This topic is Tisha B'Av, anti-Semitism, and the Holocaust, the Shoah. A lot of this is defined in my video of anti-Semitism. First of all, Tisha B'Av, that's the 9th Tisha B'Av of the month of Av, a sad day in the Jewish calendar, and I have a video on this, which commemorates the destruction of both holy temples, one in 586 BC and one in 70. Anti-Semitism, I have a video on this. It's the term coined in the 1800s in Germany for anti-Jewish, basically anti-Jewish sentiment and actions. Shoah, Holocaust, that generally is referring to the Nazi war of exterminating the Jews, of killing 6 million Jews. Other people use the term Holocaust, but it's generally regarded as the horrible nightmare in the late 30s and early 40s of mass extermination of millions of Jews. Christ killer. This is the term of 2,000 years of Christianity until basically Vatican II, and the Pope said that it was wrong and a sin to say it, holding Jews responsible for the death of Jesus, which simply is not true. But Jews were killed because of it for thousands of years. Blood libel. This is another false anti-Semitic accusation that Jews used the blood of Christian children in their matzah, which is ridiculous. We can't eat blood. We would never kill children. We would never kill anyone unless we were in self-defense. But an anti-Semitic canard that led to, again, massacres of Jews through the Middle Ages, and it still rears its ugly head periodically in modern times. Pogrom is generally the word for an anti-Semitic action used in Eastern Europe, especially Russia and Ukraine, the Cossacks, where Jews were beat up and killed, and villages burnt and destroyed by semi-unofficial official actions of the Tsar and the Russian population, really in the 1800s and early 1900s. The bubonic plague. What does that have to do with anti-Semitism? Well, Jews were blamed for inciting the bubonic plague, mostly because less Jews died, mostly because Jews lived segregated by the force of the Christian community. Also, Jews washed their hands before they ate, took baths once a week in those days, which was a lot, cleaned out all their grain at Passover time, and so were more hygienic and died less, so were blamed. And of course that rears its ugly head periodically now. Like years ago, not so long ago, one of the leading health people in the city of Chicago blamed Jewish doctors for the AIDS crisis and infecting minority children. Those kind of ridiculous, absurd, horrible anti-Semitic things are still around. Inquisition. That is Spain, the 1400s, where the Grand Inquisitor, Catholic Church, tried to ascertain who was a correct Christian, and it was illegal to be Jewish, and so 1/3 of the Jews were killed, 1/3 were forced to flee, 1/3 converted to Catholicism, many of them secretly, and some of those people are still around, descendants of them practicing Jews are returning to Judaism. The Crusades were the Pope's inspired efforts to conquer the Promised Land from the Muslim infidels, quote unquote, but along the way they butchered many Jews. Protocols of the Elders of Zion. That is another anti-Semitic tract forged in Russia in the 1900s, blaming, late 1800s, blaming Jews supposedly as a cabal controlling the world. And it's now been translated into Arabic and sold widely in Arab countries. Henry Ford, founder of the Ford Motor Company, very anti-Semitic, published constant anti-Semitic tirades in his Dearborn Gazette. Adolf Hitler, the power and mastermind behind the Nazi effort to exterminate, and successful effort to exterminate 6 million Jews. Mein Kampf was his book, Mein Kampf, autobiography. Yom HaShoah is the Yom HaShoah, the day the Jewish people set aside to commemorate the Holocaust, which is after Passover, the 27th of Nisan. Never again is a slogan that fuels a lot of the energy in the state of Israel and the Jewish people not to allow a Holocaust to happen again. concentration camps. Those were not camps, they were forced resettlement areas where Jews were put. Other people were put there too, but Jews were sent there, usually in box cars with no food and water. And as soon as they got there, they were immediately taken to their death in gas chambers or forced to work on starvation food until they died, scattered throughout Germany and Poland and other areas. The Yellow Star. The Nazis, at some point in the period of the Holocaust, required Jews in their dominated areas to wear yellow stars identifying them as Jews. Hester Panim. That is a biblical term for God's hiding God's face. One of the great questions raised by the Holocaust and anti-Semitism is, where is God? And one of the theological positions is God seemingly hides God's face at certain points in history. Assimilation, that is the word used to describe Jews who stop living as Jews and try to blend into the rest of the population without living distinctively Jewishly. Neo-Nazis or skinheads, terms used today for especially young gangs of people whose major feeling is anti-minority and anti-Jew, and they often look to Hitler as some kind of sick role model. Hakarat Tov, the good message and the good news, and Soviet Jewry. That was a recent effort that bore a lot of fruit to force the then KGB tyrannical Soviet Union to let Soviet Jews who wanted to leave, and millions left.